Alright, so I just washed the truck and I figured I'd do a build walk around video before it gets all dirty again. I have the 8-pillar lights on. There's a total of 8 rock lights, 4 in the wheel wells, 1 in the center front, 2 on the rockers, and then there's one there. And then 1 center rear, right on the pumpkin. I also did 2 cargo lights. At night, these things light up the bed pretty good. I have a soft top for the winter time, and it helps a ton. And the last ones are gonna be the rear Squadron Pros flush mount, all controlled by Switch Pro. The Switch Pro is mounted in the center console. I do have onboard air in the rear and wiring for a light up whip whenever I use it. I have a phone mount with a MagSafe magnet on it and a Garmin Mini dash cam. Down on the seats, we've got seat jackers with custom ARP hardware and a molly rack, and I put this snap-on electric road flare and light in case I ever need it. Under Armour is RCI skids up to the transfer case and lower control arm skids. They had to be modified to clear the Marlin crawler gusset kit, but just took a little bit of notching and cleaning up. It wasn't too hard. I wanted something to tie the build together from front to back. So you'll find ARP bolts, 12-point stainless bolts, and beauty washers front to back whenever I can put them there. So coilovers, bolts for the control arms. I'm running Kibbetech Billet UCAs with Heims, and then Dirt Logic coilovers. So I got the Marlin crawler lower control arm gusset kit and paired it with the Total Chaos cam tab kit. So both of them are paired up together and all welded in. It's a really stiff setup. Recently, RCI came out with these cat protectors, so I picked up a set of those as well, just to protect the catalytic from any theft. All right, moving on to the sliders. These are made by Palfrey Built. They've been out of business for a few years. You can still get a set that looks similar to these by Fab Zone in San Diego. I thought that they were the nicest sliders to date as far as design. They've been to Moab and they went through a hell of a lot out there, and they've been pretty good, so nothing bad to say about these guys. So for brakes, I'm running DBA USA rotors and Akabono Pro ceramic brake pads. I did a stainless braided line in the front and then a +4 stainless braided line in the rear to accommodate for all the extra droop that I'm getting with these hammer hangers. Rear suspension is Deaver Stage 2s. I modified it and removed the 5th leaf since I don't have as much constant load as what they want. Rear Dirt Logics that are from the 6-inch lift kit, so it's a longer shock, has a lot more droop than stock, but I had to limit it slightly with the Wheeler's bump stop and a 1/4-inch spacer. And then we did a Banff rear diff skid and some ARP hardware on that as well. So one of the main reasons why I went with a longer shock was because I wanted to keep the stock shock mounts. The reason being is when you do a relocation, the shock body and the tower is out pretty far and you'll have to run wheel spacers. But with these wheels, it's already pretty wide front to back, and I didn't want to run another 1 to 1.25 inch spacer for the shocks. On the passenger side, I have seat jackers as well, another molly rack, and then I got the quick release fire extinguisher mount from DDI and a H3R Halotron fire extinguisher. These will put out a fire without leaving that white residue. I keep my builds pretty simple. A lot of the outside looks pretty stock, but I do park under this beam and the stock antenna was too tall. So I took the ball off the top, cut it 4 inches, hammered it back, painted it, and it clears this beam without issue and still looks relatively stock. So it took me a while to find a bumper that I liked and that complemented the truck well without just hacking off the beds and looking like an afterthought. So this ATH Fab bumper was pretty much what I was looking for. It's got a lot of side protection and It's got a hidden receiver behind the license plate. It also uses the stock license plate lights, which is a nice trick. So yeah, Morgan at ATH Fab, he's awesome to work with and has made quite a few of these. One of my favorite things of this build are the wheels. These are Volk Racing TE37X that I had ordered brand new, sent them to OMF in Riverside, where they cut a piece of the face off and weld on a beadlock assembly. So that silver ring is physically welded onto the wheel, and it converted it into a beadlock. I did end up going with ARP bolts for all of the wheels, as well as a custom valve stem cap that was made from a bolt, drilled out, tapped for a valve stem, and I figured it was just a nice touch to put it all together. And I finished it off with some 315 75 16 KM3s. This is my second set and I love them. You just have to stay on top of the balance and rotation. I went with Project Kicks lug nuts. You had to buy 2 packs because they don't sell them in quantities for trucks. It's usually for cars. But with that, I got 2 keys, so it wasn't a bad deal. The lower race, if you can see right there, it's 2-piece. It spins, so when you torque it, it's not grinding on the wheel. It's spinning on a washer. And when I remove these wheels, it looks like there's never been a lug nut torqued on them before. All right, so in the back, I have the dual air compressor with the Expedition Essentials mount, Expedition Essentials harness that goes all the way to the front. ARP bolts and washers for the Total Chaos bed stiffeners. And on this side, this is where I ran the wiring for the Dirt Direct Motorsports Dream Whip. It's a 4-foot Dream Whip, and it did come with a quick release mount, so I take it off whenever I don't need it. And I also did some ARP hardware on that guy. So I ran the wiring for this so I could tuck it away and put the compartment lid back on when I'm not using it. All right, so moving on to the engine bay, I have a Volant air scoop, and it is usually for their boxes, but I just ran it with some couplers and piping to the stock air box. This motor does have a -3-degree exhaust cam gears, a tune, and a 1/2-inch intake manifold spacer. So it's got a little pep. It's definitely not stock anymore, but not a huge powerhouse like having a supercharger or anything like that. This is a winch power kill switch on and off, and that's for a Warn VR Evo 10. It's mounted on a Palfrey built hidden winch mount, but like I said before, they are out of business. You can't find those mounts anymore. The best thing about it is it's made for the stock bumper and the stock bumper plastic, so it doesn't look too aftermarket. I did Factor 55, Fair Lead, and Ultra Hook. And then with the 35s, the trans temps were getting hot, so I made a custom trans cooler setup. It's got XRP fittings, stainless bent lines that I did myself, and it's ran down with some hose down to the hard lines on the transmission. This is a 25-row cooler from Deral. It's a local USA made product. I bent up some brackets with some cushion rubber mounts, did the ARP hardware with the beauty washers as well. And then one of the last things I did was this Uni filter mod to get rid of the foam filter that'll destroy the secondary air system, and just put that on the outside. So one of the last major mods, since I haven't mentioned it already, is the fender trim. This does have 2 inches cut off of the flares and a little bit more cut off the metal fender beneath them, and that clears up room for 35s. On this one, I had to line it up with the bumper, so it did take a lot of work, but it's a nice cut overall. So that's pretty much it. That is the build to date. I don't really anticipate too many more changes, maybe just a re-gear, but if you have any other questions on it, let me know in the comments and I'll try to answer them as best as I can.